Hey, and welcome to the Izzy Chinchy show.
My phone is the reward for me. I'm like, no phone time for an hour, for 2 hours. You cannot check your phone until you get this done. And then I'm all in on one thing. I'm focused on my one thing and I check it off and I'm like feeling way better about myself because I actually got my tasks done.
I am so pumped that you tuned in. My goal with the show is to inspire and motivate you to the best of my abilities. I believe our world needs more leaders, and I believe that you, my listener, are a leader, and that you have the opportunity to impact your community and family by simply being you. I truly am here to try and serve and offer value to your life. And if you enjoy the show, it would mean the most to me if you could please either rate, subscribe, or share the show with anyone who you think might benefit from listening. Together, we can make this world a better place. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you love today's episode.
Today, I'm going to be talking about multitasking and why you should stop multitasking. The first reason I think multitasking is incredibly inefficient and ineffective is because it leaves open tabs in your brain. So if I'll use me as an example, if I am trying to build an email campaign, work on my course, respond to emails, edit a podcast, and come up with content, and I'm switching through those tasks, then I feel like I have 5 things that are open in my brain that I have to hold space for. And I'm also not ever getting the satisfaction of simply checking a box and saying, that's done. Email campaign was built out, like I'm good, right? And then I get frustrated because I'm working on so many things at once. The other reason that I think multitasking is incredibly inefficient is because you just aren't fully focused on one thing. And when you're not fully focused on one thing, you're just half-assing a bunch of things at once instead of whole-assing one thing at a time. Now, for those of you who don't want to admit this, working on a project while still checking your phone is multitasking. So if you are working on something and you are still responding to texts, still responding to Snapchats, looking at your Instagram DMs, you are multitasking and you are not whole-assing one thing. And it is not productive. I am not saying that I am perfect at this. This is something I still struggle with, but recently I've begun to just set a timer on my phone for 1 or 2 hours, however long you want to do the blocks. For me, I like to do the longer sessions and be like, I am not looking at my phone. I am only working on this one thing for this set amount of time. And once I'm finished, I then can look at my phone. Now, I have realized in doing that the things that I think are going to take me like 5 hours are really going to take about 1 to 2. I can almost get it done in double the time because I'm not switching from thing to thing. So it's actually opened up so much time for me and has made me feel so much better because I'm not stressed out trying to get a million things done at once. The other piece of this that's kind of awesome is like they say when you have a task that you have to do, you want to put a reward at the end of it because then you're more motivated to get the task done. Well, my phone is the reward for me. I'm like, no phone time for an hour, for 2 hours. You cannot check your phone until you get this done. And then I'm all in on one thing. I'm focused on my one thing and I check it off and I'm like feeling way better about myself because I actually got my task done. And I freed up so much time, so much more time for myself. I used to do things like I used to think a month of podcast and scripting out a month of podcast needed to take like 4 days to do. I've realized it takes me 2 to 3 hours. That's it. If I just set a timer for 2 to 3 hours and say, I am not moving until I have my outlines for every single podcast and I have my content to go along with it. So I have my titles, so I have my descriptions, like every single piece of it. If I just focus on that for 1 to 2 hours, it's done. Maybe 3 hours, but it's done for the entire month. And I've started to do this like in other spaces, like deep cleaning the house or something like that. I'm like, okay, I'm focusing on way too many things. and I clean the kitchen for a couple minutes, and then I walk into the bathroom. I'm like, oh, now I need to clean that. And then I go to my room. I'm like, oh, I got to clean that. No, I'm like done. Even in that space, I'm like, I'm going to set a timer. I'm going to work in my bedroom for 5 minutes. And usually it only takes like 5 minutes to clean the damn thing. But I try and do way too much at once. Same thing when I'm in the kitchen. I'm like, I am only focused on cleaning the kitchen. If you're someone who easily gets distracted, I think multitasking is like almost a relief, because then it feels like, oh, now I can go to this and this and this. It's not efficient, and it's actually teaching our brains to get distracted. So if you have a project, or you have something you're working on, or you're a student and you need to study, or you're writing your book, realize that if you're doing that and checking your phone, you're multitasking. And we know that multitasking is not effective. It's not efficient. I'm not going to pretend to be a scientist, but the data is out there. Like, the studies are there. It is a surefire thing that multitasking is not as effective as monotasking. Focusing on one thing, you're going to get way more bang for your buck than working on 5 things at once. Now, this does take discipline to do. Like, I realize it's not that easy. I've had to be way conscious about it. Be like, okay, I am not multitasking today. I'm going to focus on one thing at a time. And the only way that I can really dial that in is by setting a timer. At least that's what works best for me. So if you are struggling and you feel like you are not getting all your tasks done, I just really encourage you to question yourself. Say, like, am I multitasking? Okay, let me cut out multitasking, because I know I'm going to be more efficient if I am not multitasking. Again, the biggest tip that I have for you is simply time blocking. Set a timer on your phone. You say, I do not look at my phone. I do not check Instagram, Snapchat, whatever it is. I only work on the one thing. I love you. I believe in you. Stop multitasking. Get your stuff done, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, I would greatly appreciate if you could share this episode with 5 people you think could benefit from the show. Also, please feel free to connect with me on Instagram at Izzy Chinchy, or my website at izzychinchy.com. Thank you so much for being you. Keep being a leader and making this world a better place.